In this video, I would like to talk a little bit about the software that you need to get started making videos and a little bit about the settings that you want to look for and how to make good audio. As I've come to find out and learn over the years, good audio makes good video, even if the video itself is not very good. The first thing we need is a piece of software to record our screen and our audio. There's plenty of ways to do this. Mac has a built-in way to do it. Windows kind of has a built-in way to do it. However, I like an open source product called OBS Studio. It is cross-platform. It's a really strong piece of software that can do a whole lot of things, a lot of complex setups. It's used a lot by Twitch gamers. Professional YouTubers use it a lot to do some pretty advanced and complicated things that we're not going to do because we don't need to. We just want to do some basic recording. So go ahead and head over to obsproject.com, grab a copy for whichever setup you've got. There's nothing unique about the install. Install it like you would anything else for your particular platform. Go ahead and open up OBS. You might be prompted the first time with this auto configuration wizard. We're going to run through it and then tweak some settings moving forward. So the first thing is we don't need to stream. We're only going to be recording. So we'll change that to recording and click next. The canvas resolution, I would recommend 1920 by 1080. I wouldn't go any lower than that. If you have a nice display that can handle 1920 by 1080, definitely use that. Basically use the biggest resolution you can. For me, that's 1920 by 1080. The FPS number, this is frames per second. It's your frame rate. If you go to the movies, in the theaters, you're watching a movie with a frame rate probably 24 frames per second, which just means literally 24 still pictures that are played back at 24 of them over 1 second. And when you do that, you get this very nice, smooth, cinematic effect. Looks great for movie theaters, looks terrible for screen recordings. And when you watch TV, even Netflix, it's probably a frame rate of 30. Again, looks fine for TV, not for video. The higher the frame rate, the smoother all of the movement is. So we want the highest frame rate we can get, but we really want 60 is what we want. If you watch the Olympics or some sporting event that has like the super slow motion cameras, those are doing a frame rate in the hundreds of frames per second. For us, if your computer can handle it, pick 60. If you're unsure, do some tests. Figure out if your computer can handle a frame rate of 60. Most modern computers probably can. We're not streaming with it, we're just recording. Probably not a problem. So do some tests. Use 60 if you can, 30 if you have to, but just 30 or 60. Don't do anything else or you'll start to notice a real reduction in quality. So we'll go ahead and click next. Based on the recommendations, they recommended an encoder of the hardware. OBS might say for your machine the encoder should be software. I would recommend whatever they say, go ahead and run with it. The recording quality, though, says high quality, medium file size. We're going to change that in a minute because that's not, we can do better than that. And then it did not take my, well, you see here it took the 1920 by 1080. The scaled resolution, we're going to change that, and then our frame rate is, I guess I left it at 30. We're going to do 60. There we go. So we'll apply those settings. Now we're going to tweak a little bit. On the bottom right, we're going to click Settings. There are so many settings in OBS, most of them we don't need to worry about. Come over here, go to Output. Your video bitrate is just fine. The encoder will be whatever they recommended. For me, it's hardware. Your audio bitrate is fine. Where are we recording? We're recording to the desktop. No big deal. You can browse and pick wherever you want to go. I like to generate my file names without spaces. The recording quality, this is earlier they recommended a high quality. instructional videos tend to be relatively short. So if you were going to record gameplay for hours and stream it on Twitch, you could not get away with doing this. 10-15 minute instructional video, we can. We're going to change this from high. I would say either indistinguishable quality or lossless quality. The bigger the file size, the better the quality. I'm going to go with lossless, and it's going to complain about you may end up with very, very large files. It's okay, not a big deal. Whenever we finish editing the video and render it down, it won't be this big. So yes, I'm sure I want to use it, and we don't mess with custom muxer settings. Audio, your sample rate should be 48. It's either going to be 44 or 48. Go ahead and leave it at 48. And then channels, your setting might default to stereo. However, you don't really want stereo in this instance. There's no train passing by where it's going to go from the left speaker to the right speaker. This is just me talking. It doesn't need to go left and right. So record it in mono. It's going to be mono all the way out. That way, if I move a little too much to the left of my microphone, it doesn't throw off the video. It's just both ears hear the same thing, and that's really what you want in this kind of video. Everything else is fine. Under the video tab, the base resolution will be what you set in the auto wizard. If it's not, I would, like I said, pick the biggest screen resolution possible. The output resolution, you'll see here, it's significantly smaller than the base resolution. I'm going to go ahead and change this to 1920 by 1080. I want the highest quality output resolution that I can take. And then our frame rates should be at 60. There's a bunch of other settings. Feel free to look through them. We're not going to mess with any of them now. Hit OK. We're almost there. Right now, I'm using a Logitech headset. It's like a cheap $25 headset. Pop it into the USB. It recognized it immediately. In fact, OBS knew exactly what to do with it. However, you still want to make sure. This is your audio mixer window. Click the settings icon under mic/aux. We're going to come down to properties. You just want to make sure the device is set to the one that you want. It probably already is. You want to be safe though. Speaking of audio, you may have noticed this green, yellow, and red bar tends to go red sometimes right now. That means I'm clipping my audio, which means I'm too loud for the recording, and you're going to lose a lot of quality, and it's going to sound terrible. I promise you've probably heard it on YouTube. It's awful. No good. On the flip side, audio that's too quiet is just as bad. So you're going to make this slider, you're going to work with it until your speaking tone falls somewhere between this -20 and -10. You want to live most of it in that yellow section. You can go a little below, you can go a little over. Everybody has different inflection points and different tones, but as long as you live in that area, it's fine. You notice for the most part I live right there. Every once in a while I go a little red, and that's okay because OBS built in a little bit of leeway. It's when the whole thing goes red, that's when you're clipping your audio. You won't hear clipping in this recording, even though it was way up here, because my other OBS window that is recording, I brought it down and made sure I wasn't clipping. This might be a little trial and error. Do a couple tests, understand how loud you're going to talk while recording yourself. Most people talk a little softer in a recording, so do it a couple times, figure out where you live, and then just leave that slider be. It's easier to boost up your audio a little bit than to pull back clipped audio. There's nothing you can do with clipped audio. So the audio is good, our settings are good, we're almost ready to actually record. OBS has scenes. A scene is just a collection of different items on your screen. It could be a webcam plus a graphic plus like a little news ticker and maybe like a web page that has a countdown timer. It could be a whole lot of things. This is where your professional YouTubers and your gamers can get really advanced and like they can pull in Twitch feeds and do a lot of things that we don't want to worry about. However, we do need one source. OBS has a default scene here. We're not even going to mess with that. We're going to come over here to our sources window. We're going to add a source, and it's going to be display capture. You can leave it just called display capture. You can rename it, whatever. I have multiple displays right now. It's asking me which display I want. I'm going to leave it as display 1. You want to capture your cursor. It's an instructional video tutorial probably. The cursor is important. Hit OK. This window is your preview window. Whatever is in this window is going to be recorded or streamed, whatever. In this instance, if we actually recorded, it would record itself because the preview window is in the display window. So if we, I'll just resize, I will go into the properties here and change the display just so you can see. This is my second screen. You'll notice this is OBS, but that's the one that's actually being recorded. So you could, let me pull Firefox over. You can pull it over. It's literally seeing whatever the screen is seeing. It includes the start bar. It includes the taskbar. It includes all of that. If seeing the window itself really bothers you, let me change this back. If seeing all of this over and over again bothers you, you can also right-click on the preview window and uncheck Enable Preview. And now the preview is just hidden. It's still there. We know it's still there. You can always check that it's still there. It's just hidden to prevent this kind of thing. And you'll notice this red bounding box allows me to recenter stuff, reposition, resize. So what I was saying earlier about different sources, we can add a second display capture just to kind of show you how advanced in some of the capabilities. This is my other window right over here. If I drag and resize this, maybe put it down here. And now I have two windows, and we could keep going. I could add a video game. I could add just a video file if I had some kind of looping background. Actual web browsers. I can add a color source, so we can just, I don't know, do that and then drag and drop some terrible color. But you could build out these very complex scenes if you, for instance, maybe you had a webcam and you really wanted to put yourself in the video for a little bit, maybe talk and then flip back and forth. You could do that. You don't have to do any of that though. You can really just leave it at display capture, go to properties, just going to drag it. It's snapped into the corners, resize it, and because my capture window, my output window, and the actual display are all 1920 by 1080, it's fitting perfectly in the window. There are other sources that you can do where it won't fit quite as nicely. If you didn't want your whole display, if you only wanted, say, your Firefox window, you can actually do a window capture. And it's not count. Hold on. Maybe we have to do that. There we go. So now it sees Firefox as a possible window. I think it's not automatically picking it up because of my other recording that I have going right now, but I'm just going to change this, and there it is. So what you'll notice, I'm just going to toggle off the display capture for a minute. You'll notice this does not fit the entire preview window because this Firefox window right here is not 1920 by 1080. It's significantly smaller. In fact, it's you can see. I can drag it out and overdo it if I really wanted to. I could bring that back. I could also just maximize the window, but this still is not full screen. You're still going to end up with some overlay here, and OBS is telling you, hey, we're clipping the window over here for the sake of going full top to bottom. If you didn't want to clip anything, you could do that, and now you're going to end up with a little bar at the bottom there or at the top. And basically because it's the start bar, right? That's what's being compensated for. If you only wanted the Firefox window, or really any window, that's what you would do. So we're going to delete that though. Before we delete it, I will say the one way around this, and it's not, if you're doing this, you might as well just do a whole display capture. You could go into full screen mode. With Firefox in full screen mode, you lose the tab bar and the address bar. However, if you tab back over to OBS, now it's 1920 by 1080. You can still scroll and do everything, but at that point you might as well just use the whole display capture. That's the simplest way to do it. And we were here playing, let's take the window capture off and put display back on. There we go. I'm just going to delete this from my scene. And that's really it. All that's left is to hit start recording. It records. You can set it to minimize down into the tray when you start recording, and you'll notice the tray icon here. That is indicating that there's a recording going on. And really, that's it. That's all that there is to get started recording. Couple of tips that I would recommend though is if you're at all serious about doing good quality recordings, I would invest about $130 into a nice microphone. My preference is a Blue Yeti. I don't get paid to say that. I don't get anything. I've just used the product and like it. You can pick it up on Amazon for like $130. It comes with a pop filter, which helps kind of dampen some of the popping sounds. It's a pretty good deal. Sounds great. Really elevates the whole process. You can tell when you're watching videos on YouTube. You can tell by the audio quality what kind of microphone they were using. If you don't want to spend $130, you can spend $25. Pick up a Logitech headset. That happens to be what I'm using right now. It's, like I said, plug and play, USB. OBS picked it up immediately. If you don't have that and you just don't want to spend any money, most cell phones nowadays come with a headset. Like every iPhone comes with one. You can just plug that into your phone, put your headset on. I know iOS has a built-in voice recorder. I don't know if Android does, but you can grab one off the App Store for either platform, and just record your audio separately. In the case where there's no audio, you won't have anything on this OBS window. It might try to pick up the internal display or the internal microphone, in which case you just turn it down, and that's it. So you record your audio separately. You're still keeping the microphone nice and close. You're trying to avoid the fans from your laptop that maybe would pick up sound, and yeah, that's a pretty easy way to have better audio if you don't have anything, instead of recording just off the built-in microphones in your computer. Then you just Dropbox it, or toss it on Google Drive or OneDrive, whatever your cloud platform is. And then when you edit the video, and I'll make a video on the basics of editing, you just line up the audio and you move on. It's really not that hard, especially for a video recording of your, like a screen recording. The other recommendation I would have is when you start recording, give it 5 or 10 seconds to pick up all of the noise in the room. That's important, as if you get more advanced with your video editing, you can actually cancel out some of that noise. Basically, you can tell your editor, hey, listen for this frequency in this range, and I want you to silence that. It's always good just to have a few seconds in the beginning and a few seconds in the end of just silence. So that's how you get started doing some real basic screen recording.